can be. So that is part of their orientation. Okay, then you have fellowship, variety, and communication. Is your club meeting being inclusive? Not, the modern terminology of inclusive, but the real inclusive, where everybody feels like they're a part of what's going on. Do they feel comfortable? Do they feel like there's enjoyment in the program? Okay, then, is the meeting organized? Do we run the meeting in a proper manner? Or do we just, we're here and we're going to have a meeting, and when it gets over, we're going to leave? Well, that is really important, because when people see structure and feel structure, then they have a certain amount of feel strength from that. And then membership strength. This means basically how strongly do the members feel like they have gotten a benefit from Toastmasters. And so when we feel that we're getting a strong benefit, then we reflect that to the new members. And so that's another moment of truth. And finally, achievement recognition. How much do we really recognize people? One of the touchstones of Toastmasters is their recognition. Now, you guys have not seen much about it yet, but when I start talking to you about the new Pathways program, recognition is a serious, serious issue in that. It's got a situation where Toastmasters International gives more recognition instead of just, well, you finished your CC. Now another 10 speech, you finish the next one. Another 10 speech, you finish the next one. Whereas in the new Pathways, you finish this little bit, you get some kind of award. But they go even farther than that. If other members have watched you give a presentation or watched how you reacted in a meeting, and they feel that you have done something beyond the norm or something that they feel, well, there's certain awards that you can give them from member to member. So awards are a really, really important part of the new Toastmasters Pathways program. It's always been important, but in this case, it's even more important. So, as we mentioned, first impressions are often critical. If you've studied anything about relationships between people, often the first impression becomes a lasting impression, right? Isn't that one of the sayings? The first impression is a lasting impression. So if you give an impression of someone who is really aggressive and mean, it doesn't matter how nice you are. Maybe that day you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. But that person is going to remember that you were aggressive and mean to them the first time they met you. And they're going to be less inclined to get along with you from that point afterwards. So, what do? We greet our guests. Now, when guest comes in, do we greet the desk at the, do we greet the guest at the door and introduce them to other members of the club? Or do they just kind of come in and sit down and, what am I doing here and who are these people? So giving them an introduction to the club as in a greeting is a very important part of that first impression. All right, now name tags and such, we don't really do that, but we do have them sign up on the guest book. That's one thing we could look into, is giving out little name tags. There is a resource in TI International where you can buy name tags that people can wear, and they're permanent name tags. Now, if you actually get to certain levels in Toastmasters, then you get a name tag as part of it. So if you become like an area leader, any of the positions in your area or district level, then you get a name tag that say, like I have one that says area governor and what year I was the area governor. I could conceivably be wearing that everywhere I go. When you get your Distinguished Toastmaster, you can also get you'll get a name tag. Now the new name tags are really nice because they're magnetic, and so they don't poke holes in your precious clothing. Okay, so but we could possibly do name tags, but just the fact that we're getting something that we can give them feedback through a guest book is a valuable thing. So professionally arranged meeting room. Setting up the meeting room so that it's appropriate for what we're going to be doing. This is although technically this is the responsibility of the Sergeant at Arms, anyone who gets here early enough can be a part of that. And if anyone has suggestions on how we could make this more appealing, then that would be also acceptable. Okay. Convenient meeting location. I think that we have a good location here in West Mobile. A lot of people like this location and think that this location is pretty good. One of the good things about this Toastmasters Club is it's the only club that meets after working hours in Mobile. So that's a benefit to a lot of people. If you live downtown, you can go to the restaurant on Wednesday afternoons, maybe within walking distance of your business, then that's great. If you're out here working at the hospital, well, you may be able to go over to the Red Lobster on Monday at noon for the Toastmasters meeting there. But if you're not local to any of those, it's going to take more than the time frame that you would normally get in a business environment for lunch. So we have a good opportunity here in this location. Okay, invite guests to come in, and then once they get here, invite them to introduce themselves to the club, maybe just a little bit. What do they do? Why did they how did they find out about the club? What are they doing? Those are very valuable things. And just the fact that they can get up and say something with smiling, happy faces, paying attention to them is going to be a valuable thing for a lot of people. And finally, invite them to join. This is where a lot of times we fail. Is we get people, they come in, they have a nice experience, we thank them for coming and ask them to come back again, but we don't necessarily give them good information on how they can join and what are the benefits of them joining. Okay, so that is their first impression. What about membership orientation? Membership orientation, once someone has come into the club, what do we do that makes them feel like they are part of that club? Do we show them how the club works? Now, one of the things we've been failing to do lately is actually inducting people into the club. Theoretically, what Toastmasters International wants us to do is to actually vote people into the club. And then once they get voted into the club, then we give them pins or some other recognition that they are club members. So this is one of the things that we've been failing to do. Now, part of the reason that you vote people in is that later on you can vote them out. If something happened and they became disruptive to the meetings, or there was something bad that happened, then it would be easier to vote them out. But if you don't vote them in, then what right do you have to vote them out? So Toastmasters actually has a protocol where we are supposed to send them out of the room and have a vote, and then invite them back and tell them whether we accept them or not. So it is that is what's supposed to happen, and we haven't been doing that. Now, in the old days, some clubs, they would always have one set of manuals. They would have a CC and a CL manual, and as soon as somebody joined, they would induct them into the club, give them their manuals, and then when they get their manuals in the mail, they give them back to the club, so that they always have instead of like some of our members that 3 months later they're still waiting for somehow to get their manuals. So that's another, but that possibility is going to be going out the window, because everything in Pathways, the first thing that you do is you join up online and you download all of your manuals, and everything can be done completely online. You don't need any paper copies, which is environmentally very, very wonderful thing. Actually, and being an environmental group, I do understand that. Okay, assign a mentor. This is another thing that we have not been doing as much. Does everybody here have a mentor? Is there anybody who does not have a mentor? You don't have a mentor. Well, we need to find you a mentor, because that's part of what Toastmaster does. Now, again, jumping ahead a couple of months, when we get into Pathways, as soon as you get past the first step in your whatever path you choose, then there's a section that you have to do on becoming a mentor. And then there's the opportunity to go in, they have 3 separate manuals on mentorship, so that you can develop your ability to be a mentor as you are going through your regular program. So mentoring is going to become a very much more valuable thing. And I think there's even a path that goes for mentoring, which goes more deeply into maybe mentoring on a business scale, on a commercial scale, or on, professional coaching and stuff like that. So that might be interesting. But everyone should have a mentor, because nobody knows how to do anything until they are taught. And of course, you can always learn how to do it by reading, but it's much better if you have someone who's helping you to achieve that. Okay? Education programs and your recognition systems, that all can be discussed. You can tell them, well, when you get this level, they're going to be recognized. When you get this level, you'll be recognized, and so on. So that's going to give them some goals and hopes that they can use towards the future. All right, learning needs assessed. This is going to be an interesting part of the new Pathways program. As soon as you get in, you can go through and do an assessment where it figures out what is it that you want to do. What do you want to get out of Toastmasters? And you can do this assessment numerous times, because as you evolve in your leadership ability, you will also evolve in what your needs and what your desires are for the future. So when a new member comes in, getting them to understand what they can do to achieve their goals through Toastmasters is a valuable way to keep them inspired and moving forward. And then you assign them some types of roles. Okay, when are you going to do your icebreaker speech? It's the easiest speech in the world, because you're talking about something that you know better than anybody else in the world. You are the world's #1 expert on you. Okay, and normally I would give you a Dr. Seuss quote here, but I can't remember it exactly, so. I'm already 17 minutes in? Yeah. Ooh. Okay, what time is the second section supposed to start? At 10, and they're already 11. Okay, so we'll finish off this section and we'll stop. Then you get them involved in club activities. Okay? Greet them warmly, have educational, so on and so forth. So So all of these things are going to bring them into Toastmasters. Okay? A lot of that stuff we do already. This is promotional stuff. I'll skip it. All right. Make sure to give them recognition for the things that they do. This is valuable, and this is going to be a major component of the new Toastmasters Pathways program. All right? And finally, these, once again, are the important things that we have to do. First impression. Give them proper orientation. Help them to realize fellowship and the comfort. How our meetings are organized. Be strong and provide recognition. You never get a second chance to give a first impression. Mr. Toastmaster.
It's good. I think we have a little bit to work on in some of those aspects as a club. I think we can do a little better, especially on just getting in the material. I think that's a cool idea, but like Lawrence was saying, pathways will be coming along. So it'll be easier. We can maybe get their email, send them a link, at least have some contact. Okay, so we only have one speech for tonight. So we'll now move on to table topics portion. I will be the table topics master also for tonight on Toastmaster. So do we have any volunteers? Actually, I'm not prepared. Give us some real quick. Just see.
I've got a big cheat sheet too, if you'd like.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, this is okay. Any volunteers?
Since I came late, I guess I'll volunteer for.
What lifts your spirits when life gets you down?
Repeat that one more time.
What lifts your spirits when life gets you down?
Fellow Toastmasters and fellow Toastmasters. The question posed to me is, what lifts my spirits when something gets me down? I guess through different portions of my life, there were different things that would lift my spirits, but as time goes on, those things aren't necessarily things that would lift my spirits, such as another person, particularly of another persuasion, but not so much now. I would say some of the things that lift my spirits when I'm down is more intangible than tangible. For example, something that's achievable as opposed to something that you can grab and touch. Something that, or maybe a place that I'm looking forward to going, events, but those are some of the things, even though I apologize for not getting specific, but those are some of the things that would lift my spirits when I'm down. Mr. Tommy Bassett.
Great. All right, next volunteer. Justin. How have you sabotaged yourself in the past 5 years?
Thanks, Cody. Fellow Toastmasters, I've been asked to discuss how I may have sabotaged myself in the past 5 years. That's a deep question. That takes some self-reflection. You've got to be really open-minded and put some thought into answering something like that. I can say, sabotage is a strong word, but I recently at work, I ran into a coworker who had a really bad attitude and just kind of out of nowhere, attack is a strong word, but had sent me this passive-aggressive email that was real inappropriate, and he's had this pattern of doing that, and I'm watching his behavior from my point of view and realizing how inappropriate that is, but also trying to take a step back and think, well, maybe there's more going on here. Don't take this too out of control. But I can also think of times in my old job where you get complacent in the relationships that you have with people. You get complacent in your job, and someone will throw you a curveball, and you might react that way at times. And I know I maybe didn't react exactly the way he did, but I know I've reacted along those lines in that kind of manner. And that was one good takeaway from watching his behavior, as I realized I've done things along those lines in the past, so I can learn from that and try and avoid doing that same thing again. So sabotage is maybe a strong word, but I can definitely see some things where I've done that weren't in the best interest of having good relationships with my coworkers and get along with others and the best for my career for that matter also. Mr. Toastmaster. Topics.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, Rachel, let's see. When it's all said and done, will you have said more than you've done?
Fellow topic masters, will I have said more than I have done? This is not a hard question for me. I don't say a whole lot in general, so the answer to that is most likely I'll have done more than I've said. Although, really, I may not have done a whole lot either. But when it comes to my life, I enjoy running under the radar a little bit more and going by my results versus my promises. And so at the end of the day, I hope that people will remember me for the things that I've done, hopefully kind and good things, versus a whole lot of words out in the air, which is ironic because I'm here to learn how to talk. So, thank you.
Rachel. Marcia, do you want to do one? We got time for one more.
Yeah, I can do one.
Okay. Alright. If you haven't achieved it yet, what do you have to lose? Marcia.
My fellow Toastmasters, life is not about achievement. Life is about the road to achievement. Because when you really look at it, everything that you do is leading up to something. And if the whole experience is based on what am I going to have when I get there, well, what do you have to lose if you don't get there? The point is, you want to enjoy the route. It's kind of interesting. When my children were younger, in their teens and so on, it was, it was in the age when the kids were all doing the whole, are we there yet thing. Well, I always said to them clearly, no, we aren't there yet. And in fact, we are never going to be there. We are always going to be here. And so, don't live your life to to be at the goal, live your life enjoying the trip to the goal. Mr. Topic Master.
That concludes your portion of table topics for tonight. And now we'll go into the evaluation period led by Justin.
Thanks, Cody. So this begins with me, because I'm also the first evaluator. So I'll be doing an evaluation of Lawrence's speech. So as usual, Lawrence, you did a great presentation. You have a lot of vocal variety, hand gestures, movement up here, and you, regardless of the topic that you are talking about, it's always interesting and pleasurable to see you speak. And the topic itself, was Moments of Truth, part of the Successful Club series. Frankly, perhaps not the most exciting topic in the world, but it's still very, very nice to listen to you pitch that, and I'm engaged with what you're saying and paying attention because you just deliver it well. And I think that just goes to say that a lot of it is about your delivery and the quality of the information you're providing, and not just how exciting that topic itself may be. There was a slide deck prepared, and it was presented well, and that added a lot to the presentation because we could get the high points as things are going along. The presentation was very clear and concise, and one thing I noticed is you identified a number of areas where the club could improve. And one of the gaps that I've seen in our club and in clubs in general is a new membership process and making sure that they get that attention and that someone signs up and they're shepherded through to ultimately becoming a member. And you identified a lot of areas there where we're weak, and I see opportunities there also, so I'm glad to see this addressed. So very good speech, appreciate that. So let's move on to the timers report by Rachel.
So to kick us off, Lawrence had a double speech, and I could have listened to you all night long. I really needed to stop you, but you wrapped up at about 18:40. For the table topics, Maurice, you brought us in with 1 minute and 41. Justin, 2 minutes on the dot. Mine was a hint shy at 50 seconds. And Lawrence, right in the middle at 1:27.
Thanks, Rachel. You timed your own speech. I always have difficulty doing that.
I didn't. Lawrence helped me out.
I see. I see. Okay. All right. Now for the grammarian report by Cody.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed your evaluation. It was 1 minute 34 seconds.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
No problem.
All right, for the grammarian's report, I don't think anyone used the word of the day. Correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't catch it.
We weren't very urbane about that.
Okay. So no word of the day, unfortunately. And for Lawrence's speech, you had 7 ums, but it's pretty good for the length, 17 minutes on an unprepared speech, so good job. And you had 1 double word. Rachel had 1 so. Justin, you had about 3 uhs and a so. I had a few uhs and ums in there. Maurice, I didn't catch anything, so good job. And that concludes the grammarian report.
Okay, thank you, Cody. So I'll provide a general evaluation of the meeting itself. As usual, the room was well organized when we arrived. I really like this meeting space, and I think it's well set up. The sign was placed outside prior to the meeting starting. The meeting attendance was fairly light, but Cody stepped up and made sure that the meeting started very close to on time and that the roles were filled and that things moved forward. The meeting started just a couple of minutes late, and we had a 5-minute recess before we rolled into the real meeting to get the roles assigned. The agenda roles were not fully filled out ahead of time in Easy Speak, and I think that's one area that we've got to keep emphasizing, and maybe do some one-on-one training with new members when they come on board to show the importance of using it, because it does make the meetings start off much more smoothly if the roles are fulfilled in advance. During the meeting, We had good transitions between speakers by Cody, and Cody also handled the table topics and had some interesting good table topics for us. So overall, even though the attendance was fairly light, I'd say that this was a good, successful meeting as a whole. So that concludes the general evaluation, and I'll provide the lectern back to Cody.
Thank you, Gus. Thank you. Now, I don't think we have an educational overview prepared by anyone.
I'll give you something.
Okay.
'Cause I got lots of stuff that I got to talk to you guys about with the new pathway.
All right, Lawrence, let's hear about the new pathways.
The new pathways. If it comes up. All right, pathways. I will tell you, I am really excited about the new pathways program because there is a lot of stuff here that is going to be valuable for us as Toastmasters, because we do have the opportunity to enjoy Toastmasters. Okay, so all right, the new Pathways program is going to be really interesting. It's, as I mentioned in my previous talk, we're going to be doing most everything online. Now, if you want to, you can get hard copies of things, and that is an option that you can do at a slightly higher cost. But most everything's going to be online. And the new paths they have are outstanding. Right now they've got 10 paths, but they've already got new paths that are in the works that are going to be coming up. And one of the great things about this program is that they have changed the program significantly, because there are no longer two paths that you follow. You don't follow a communication path and a leadership path. They are both combined. So if you decide that you want to, say you want to be a better technical, do better technical presentations, well, you can pick a path that's going to help you to do that, and it's going to help you to be a leader of those presentations. It's going to help you to give those presentations, to research them, to do everything you need to do to get to that position. It's got high value because with all those paths, there is always something that you're going to be able to do that's going to improve your personal or professional life. It's going to be fun because a lot of the program is not just speaking. Now, you do have one program, which is professional presentations, where the entire program is about speaking. And I'm not sure, but I think you give like 30 or 40 speeches in that program. Whereas the other programs, there are some parts of the program where there's not any speaking at all. It's all about how to do presentations, and you do certain research or whatever, and that's going to be the next step in your program. You do, say for instance, if you were giving a professional technical presentation, well, the first thing is the research. So it might have a whole section about how to do the research and certain steps you have to take and document that you have done those steps to get to the end of that level, where the next section might be more about the speaking and less about the presentation. But it can be fun, and like I say, it's flexible and so on. So there's a lot of things that are really there. Now, one of the other things that really excites me about the Pathways is the mentoring portion. This is something that is really valuable. It doesn't matter what business you're in. There's always going to be somebody who knows more than you, and there's always going to be people who know less than you, about certain aspects. And if you can learn how to be a good mentor, then you can help people where they need help. And of course, if you learn how to be a good mentor, then you probably will be able to see where you need help more, and then you may be able to identify people who have the traits that you need so that you can approach them as mentoring you, which is something that is really valuable that very few people do, is look for those people who can help me to become a better person. And so that's going to be a very good thing. Also, another thing that's a very, very strong part of Pathways is the new evaluations. The evaluations that you're going to get on any presentation or any speech or anything that you do, these evaluations are much more specific. So in a lot of times in the evaluations that we get now, it's like, oh, did he do this? Yes or no? Did he do this? Yes or no? Did he do this? But in the new Pathways, it's going to be, was he a dynamic speaker, 1 to 5? What could he do to improve it? And so it's going to also have part of the program. It gives you, if you are serious about it, then when you get the job to be an evaluator, you're going to get the speaker can send you an email with a link that will show you the evaluation sheet for that section and gives you an explanation of every step in the evaluation. So you can take 10 or 15 minutes prior to the meeting to familiarize yourself with what is this speech all about? What am I going to be looking for? What am I going to be thinking about when I'm listening to this speech, so that I can give this person the best evaluation to help him to become the better person that he's attempting to be. So this is going to be really an exciting thing. And I very much am hoping that as soon as this comes out, that everyone here will take the opportunity to sign up online and pick out your first path, and then start looking at it and seeing the things that you can do with it, even if you're continuing with the older program and working your way up in that. Mr. Toastmaster.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. I think it'll help me maybe spark back into it. Get some more speeches knocked out. So with that, I believe we conclude our meeting. Thank you, everyone.